According to the National Institute of Mental Health, 1 in 5 adults, which is about 60 million adults in the United States, live with a mental illness. And of those adults, only about half receive treatment. Why does it matter to young people? Well, because students are encountering stress, anxiety, and depression earlier than ever before. We have the opportunity to flip this into more of a positive thing with just a little bit of change. I believe that every student should be required to take a mental health literacy course because it helps them recognize problems that they might have within themselves as well as others, and it helps them know that it's okay to seek help, how to seek help, or when to step in and help others. Mental illnesses are common and often begin young. Young adults ages 18 through 25 show the highest prevalence of any mental illness, according to the National Institute of Mental Health. Millions with mental illness receive no treatment because there are just simply provider shortages. Coverage issues often happen, and this was according to the Mental Health of America. Another thing was 96% of public schools report that they provide mental health services, which I think is amazing. But it's not amazing if only about half of them say that the mental health services they provide are actually effective. If this treatment is not effective for all students, then what is it there for? It should be equal for everybody. The reasons that they're not equal is because there are too many caseloads, workforce strain, and funding, per the Education Commission of the United States. If the problem is high prevalence plus limited access, what is the solution? I believe in a universal teach everyone solution, not just more referrals, interventions, and education before we end up in crisis mode. If we are required a mental health literacy course that was age appropriate for all students in high school and in college, it could make a big difference. If we required it for graduation, there would be no student left behind without the basic tools and knowledge of how to handle mental illness should it ever affect their life. More than half of the United States now have some type of mental health education policy. New York pioneered a K through 12 mandate in 2016, and I believe that we should all follow in their footsteps. What does the future look like if we implement mental health into schools more, and what happens if we don't? I feel the positives that we could gain are abundant. Students would be educated on learning to name symptoms within themselves, others, how to seek help earlier, how to support peers, or even how to support their family. This would reduce crises, reduce absences from school when people or peers need support, which could also help improve academic success. The negatives could also be abundant. Without education on the subject, high prevalence persists with less understanding. Treatment gap remains. Students continue to struggle in silence, especially those students that don't have access to care. I will use myself as an example. When I was in high school, I thought I was like the weird one. I did not understand the physical symptoms that mental illness had on me. I thought that I was kind of broken. If I had known basic grounding techniques for anxiety, I might not have ever dropped out. Even after getting my GED, I did not understand exactly what anxiety was, and I was way too anxious to even walk across the stage. It took me years and years of therapy and doctor's visits to get to the root of the problem. If I had known basic breathing techniques, calming techniques, and grounding exercises that I ended up learning as an adult, I may not have even dropped out of high school, and I may have even walked across the stage. Learning basic things to help with things like anxiety helped me become a support system to friends and family in the future. This is one reason that I believe it's important to teach in schools. If mental illness affects so many people that we know of, I can't help but wonder how many people silently suffer and could be helped with just a little knowledge of what's going inside their brain and their body. So, what could we do? We advocate. We can propose that states adopt clear standards, teacher training, and funding. We can share statistics within community forums and PTA meetings to build consensus. The more information our communities have on mental health, the more we can advocate for awareness. I honestly do not think that people realize how much mental illness affects our children and our communities. If your community feels as though the funding just isn't there, they're probably right. But that doesn't mean that we couldn't find space for that funding. With earlier intervention, we could take some crisis funding and then add it to the education. The more that we know, the easier it is to avoid getting to the intervention mode in the first place. Requiring one course won't solve everything, but it will change trajectories. Let's teach students what to do with a broken heart and racing mind in the moment. Let's teach them what to do in the moment, not after the crisis, but before.